Hey guys, this is Quinn, and today we will be talking with John Lenhart, uh, my new favorite teacher, who I thought I would come to him for perspective on the mind and the brain, on the human communication and human relationship. But turns out very practical application into dating and not just long-term marriage, which he has a happy marriage for a long, long time. You want to learn from the one who have done it, right? And yeah, and he'll be sharing a bit about the perspective of the mind and the brain when it comes to long-term relationship. And I think the story he tells now you hear is about how, we think we know what will make it happy, but maybe we not. Um, and you can see that habituation effect that we get used to things, whether good or not. Yeah, so you enjoy and do let me know what you think. There's more coming. And if you have a question, do reach out to me or John. I'm a student, but I'm happy to go to the right teacher and learn and share with you. So enjoy. Hey guys, this is Quinn, and today we will be talking with John Lenhart, uh, my new favorite teacher, who I thought I would come to him for perspective on the.
Okay, so what I want to do is I want to start with a story I heard recently that will illustrate this bigger issue of touching in the brain, because what we're really talking about is how the brain works. So there was this old guy who lived near a middle school, and every day these middle school students would walk by and they'd yell at him when they
Mhm.
went by. Old man, you're ugly, you're gonna die. And they just yell at him every day. They just loved yelling at him. So one day they walked by and they were yelling at him, and he stopped with his work and he started walking toward them, and they got afraid and he goes, "No, I just want to talk to you."
Yeah,
He goes, "Listen, I love what you guys have been doing.
yeah.
And here's what I'm going to pay you each $1 if you tomorrow, I'll pay you $1 tomorrow. If tomorrow you come by and you just yell and scream at me like crazy." And the
Uh-huh.
kid's like, "It's going to be great." So the next day, the kids come walking by the yard and they're yelling at him and screaming and telling him he's horrible stuff. And
Yeah.
he goes and he pays them each $1. And then he says, "Okay, now tomorrow I'll give you each a quarter if you come and yell at me." And they're like, "Okay." So next day they come by, they yell and scream and they do this stuff, and he gives them each a quarter. And he goes, "Okay, look at tomorrow.
I'm gonna give
If you
you.
come and yell at me, I'll give you a penny." And they go, "Penny? We're not going to do it for a penny." And they stop doing it.
Wow.
So
That.
here's how our brain works. Our brain, happiness is so fleeting, and there is a way to achieve happiness. The
Okay.
problem is everything in our brain fights that. You have to do some certain things. I won't get into that here, but
Right.
here's the point. These kids every day were doing what made them happy. The minute they got paid for it, they got happy, they got paid for it. Not that they did it. They told themselves they were still happy they did it. They're happy they got paid for it. And then the next thing you know, when the pay wasn't enough, they didn't want to do it anymore. They weren't happy to do it. So
Yeah.
now here's the point. Touching, intimate touching is the same thing.
Whoa.
So you can sit there and say, "I really am attracted to this woman. I really like her. I really care for her." And
Yeah.
then the minute you're touching her, you think you love her more, you think you care for her more, but you're actually enjoying touching her, not her. And then when the touching, you get used to the touching, you got to touch more and more intimately. And then when you finally touched as much as you can, you're
Well,
not happy with her anymore.
I have a question. I have a bit.
That's why guys go out and get mistresses.
Okay, I would have some challenging thought for that, but I want to frame the context of the conversation first. So for those who were watching this is that so so I knew John. I found out him recently to be like once in a while I found a good teacher and I'm all in that kind. So I found John online uh and he has a framing and model of that can explain and some of the mystery that I'm going through and many people are going through. But for me, the context of today's conversation, one is on touching the what touching is for, and also how much to. Right? That's a more normative questions. But I want to frame it before that. So the context is okay. Single people, single guys specifically, right, in terms of looking for long-term committed partnership, marriage, what are some of the things to pay attention to? And your insight blew my mind when you asked me about what my definition of dating is. And I thought, well, like people getting to know each other with the intention to have a long-term relationship. And it's like, sounds normal, huh? And then when you said to me that no, you need to check your definition. Is there exclusivity? And then the thing that you told me that blew my mind is in the definition, there has to be the cause and the effect. So what's the effect of dating? And when you said the effect of dating is mutual growing physical attraction, I was like, whoa, mutual growing physical attraction is an effect. It means that the effect can keep increasing because it's an effect. And I'm like, wow, that's the ideal, right? That's what I thought. That's what we all wanted is growing mutual physical attraction. And then that really blew like my whole dating definition out water because well, I would like to be dating someone for the rest of my life. For sure, right? Like I really to be date one person for the rest of my life till I die. That's the ideal goal. And then the cost of that effect of mutually growing physical attraction is getting to know somebody else mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And I thought that's beautiful because that's something that I'm very happy and willing to keep doing the rest of my life, like keep getting to know someone. And so that's the context because this is for those who are also thinking about long-term committed relationship, marriage, and you have a long-term, you're married for a long time, right?
Right. So the thing is I love how you said that cause and effect. So the causes need to be in your control. When people have mental or emotional issues, they look at effects as causes, or they look at causes as effects. So really, those, mutual attraction's an effect. So
Yep.
what's the cause? You can't just make yourself mutually attracted. And what you just said, getting to know each other mentally, emotionally, spiritually, is going to could result if you mesh, if you're right. So the data that I found, and the stuff I did 30 years ago when I started creating a model for the mind and brain, is that our brain goes through the same four periods with whatever we do, whether it's mutual attraction, whether it's friendship, whether it's a job, whatever it is what happens is we have a learning phase
Yeah.
where we're learning the thing we're doing. Then we have this moment of mastery where we understand it. And the minute we completely understand something, our brain starts habituating it away, and
Yeah.
then we don't feel effect anymore. So when I hear married people or people dating going, I completely know that person, it's declining. The key to happiness is to stay in the learning phase. The,
Yeah.
the, so our brains, and I have a link, I could probably give it to you, and you could share it with people, but
Yeah.
our brains only experience one day, fully experience reality one day during this process. So our brains weren't meant to fully experience reality. So everybody's answer, that is, you learn more. If I understood more, if I only understood more, the key is our brains are made to be happy if we stay in this learning phase. So
Uh,
if I'm always learning something about my wife that I didn't expect, my brain will keep me in this learning phase, and I will keep growing in attraction, and I will stay high about my wife. I will
yeah.
stop being high when I start mastering it. So you think about people who go on a date,
Yeah.
they get to know each other, so they feel good. Then they meet again, they feel good. And after about 4 or 5 dates, we kind of know each other. We stop getting to know each other. We have these expectations, and the energy starts dying. So how
Yeah.
do we get the energy back? We ought to get to know more, but instead, the way we get the energy is to touch. So
Yeah.
that gives us energy. So then we're on that slope of we are not enjoying this person and getting to know them. We're enjoying the touching. And when the touching's all completed and
Yeah.
we've maxed out the touching, we don't like the person we're with. So the other issue is that you really should be trying to get to know this person well enough. And I say this as a guy, as to guys especially.
Right.
I call it your no touch game.
Yeah.
How much steam do you have that's no touch? Meaning when she's upset, can you reach her without touching her? Because what's going to happen is when she's upset and you go, oh, she's going to go, don't touch me.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then the guy's like, I don't know how to. So I like to get to know, I like to tell people, get to know her without touching her and really develop that skill that you can reach her. Because there's nothing more frustrating in a relationship
But you cannot
than
reach.
one person's in a hole and you're trying to achieve things, but they're in a hole and
Yeah.
you want to help them. They don't want your help.
Oh my gosh. That yeah, been there done that. I was in a conversation. It was in a car with a lady that I like a while ago, and that moment happened. And I'm like, you can tell the person shut up, and like she's upset, but like don't touch me, don't talk to me, like just let me be. And I'm like, okay, I think it's a trigger for me to accept it, but at the same time, I do feel my helplessness in not being able to reach someone. It's
And
painful.
you put your life on hold
Yeah,
while
exactly.
you're waiting for
I
them.
can't
And
I
that
can't move on and do my thing when this is not settled, right?
Right. So the big thing I want to share with you that I think it clears everything up with all this dating advice everybody's getting. So there's all this dating advice everybody's getting, and you can clear it up by one measure. Are we talking to a low self-esteem or a high self-esteem person?
Hmm.
So if you're a low self-esteem person, you don't have much confidence, then you're going to look at effects. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at how good they're looking, how they smell, how much money they have,
Yeah.
all these different things like that. And so if you're trying to trap a low self-esteem person of the opposite sex, you put out these vibes and then you play into their insecurities
Yeah.
and you start touching really, really quickly.
Okay.
That's the key. But if you're high self-esteem, your goal is safety. So what I say is women will get these pictures or inappropriate comments from guys in
Yeah.
private. And they'll block the guy and then they'll go online and say, I blocked this guy, blah, 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 blah. And I'll just ask the question, did you just make him some other woman's problem? And
Uh,
women freak out when I say that because they know I'm right, but they don't want to believe I'm right. And what I do is I teach women how to deal with guys like that in a way that raises the woman's self-esteem.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
she's in a defensive position when she gets that picture and then she's afraid or whatever. And it's called an unconscious confrontation. So one of the ways I do it is I have a woman say, basically, low self-esteem women want a thrill and want things to be dangerous. High self-esteem women want things to be safe. I'm a high self-esteem woman. Do you believe your message made me feel safe?
Yeah.
Half the time the guys just apologize because guys are just awkward. They don't know how to talk to a woman, they don't know what to do. They've heard this kind of works, and it does work with low self-esteem women.
Yeah.
And so these guys are doing this thinking you're a low self-esteem woman. Instead, you can state you're a high self-esteem woman. You can say that half the time the guys apologize, the other half the time the guys just
Yeah.
you never hear from them again. And when these women, when these guys apologize, they say, I'm not going to do this to another woman. I didn't realize it. So you actually protected other women.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think the guys who run away, you do that too. But you think about it, women could be protecting other women. Who it's not your responsibility to train that guy or help that guy. But don't you want to protect other women? Don't you wish another woman had dealt with that guy so you
Yeah.
didn't have to deal?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a very different framing that like, okay, this is not you pushing away the guy or like it's you protecting other woman, even though the other perspective, and this is very subtle and sometimes quite sinister, is that even among women that herself themselves, I heard from some of my female friends that they are also very subtle layers of competing against each other, which is terrible and scary. So there's also that perspective, but
Right. And that's low. And that honestly, that's low self-esteem perspective
yeah,
because the thing is we have a process, we have an exercise that helps people find out if they're compatible for marriage. Because here's the thing is I say there's only two types of marriages in the
yeah,
world.
I remember
One
that.
type,
Like, great.
one type of marriage, both people just act like who they are with each other and they get so much energy, they go outside the marriage and spend the energy to fix the world. The
Yeah.
other type of marriage is both people go outside the marriage to get energy to bring it in to hold up the world. So I'm really interested in marriage because marriage could fix the world. If we would marry the right way, not low self-esteem appearance, but if we would truly marry for who we are and who that other person is, we would
Right.
all have so much energy, we'd be fixing the world. But
Yeah.
how you date sets
How
up
you-
how you get married. So that's why I asked you the question. I said, would you let an 11-year-old come in here and tell you how to date? And the answer is always no. And then I always say, too late, you already did.
Yeah.
All of us learned how to date when we were 11 years old from another 11-year-old. There
Yeah.
is no one can point to any course showing us how to date, and no one wants to take that responsibility. And when you think about it that way, you're like, no wonder marriages are a mess. We get the marriage we have from our dating, and we got our dating from our strategy when we were 11. And
Yeah.
that's not how our brain works. Our brain works the opposite of the way we think it works.
Oh, so okay, so different thread. So I appreciate it. I think that's a vision. You'll be surprised at how many people don't have a vision of what a marriage should be. You're like,
Right.
now we're gonna build a house together, so on. But like the vision that we're gonna have so much energy together that we're gonna bring it out to the world. That has always been mine. And then I'm like, so the question for me is, what is a gap? I know you like that for it. What's the gap for me now versus me so-called marriage ready? To like, what do I need to do as a guy? The way we train my mind or something to become that way. I do want to point out that it's true. The feedback that I got from some really wonderful women who care for me is that, oh, sometimes they don't feel safe around me. And then I have to take that as like they care enough for me that they let me know that's the feedback, which is that the feedback that I really need, right? So yeah,
Right. So
yeah,
the thing is that a low self-esteem woman feels safe around a guy who can beat everybody up, including them.
yeah.
That's
That's
when these women
fair.
get in these, marriages or the relationship where the guy beats them up. And their point is, well, at least it's only him beating me up because he could beat up everybody else. So here's the thing. When a man's words fail, he
Hmm.
uses his hands.
Uh,
So when
Also
you
same for
think about it,
same for touch, by the way. If you cannot
so
console somebody, you try to touch them. But I think it's also applying.
right. So the thing is what I try to do to help men is I try to help them be an expert with their words.
Yeah,
So the thing is there's a lot going on with communication. There's a lot going on with the uniqueness of the other person. I can say one sentence to one person and they like it. I can say the same sentence to a different person, they don't. And it's because their uniqueness is different. So
yeah,
when men, the safest men in the world are the ones who are masters at using their words. And that's what I try to do is I try to teach people how to use their words in a masterful way so they don't have to put their hands on people. I do this with teachers. A quick story is in the school system, if you put your hand on a student or put them in a room, it's called a, a restraint or a seclusion. And
right,
there was a child who had 88 seclusions or restraints in the first 3 months of school.
right.
So he averaged more than one a day. And this teacher had all the training everybody gets. They put him with one of the teachers that we trained. And over the next 6 months, he had zero restraints and seclusions. So what does that mean? Why was that kid needing to be restrained and secluded?
Yeah.
Because of the teacher, not the student. It's the
Mm-hmm.
teacher. And so a lot of times we think we're doing great interacting with people, but we don't realize if that person isn't energized, if we don't know how to talk to a person in a
Uh,
way that energizes
yeah.
them, then we're hurting them. There's no zero events to the brain. You're
Yep.
either helping or hurting. If you're not energizing another person, you're hurting them. I know it's hard to hear, but
I think that's you reminding me one of my Buddhist teacher, the Vietnamese Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, did say that every interaction is either a loving response or cry for help. Every interaction is either a loving response or a cry for help. And it's really like either it adds energy or it takes away. So I do have, and I also reminded myself that I had that interaction with someone I was seeing a while ago that like, oh, I know it's not doing her well, but I don't know how to do it. It's
right.
painful, which motivates me. So bring me to this question about uh dating as a foundation for marriage, and then getting to know each other as a foundation for dating. So two very important questions. I think you really shine the light. So you talk about the progression of, and we'll link it to the video. You talk about the progression from interaction to connection to friendship to relationship to friendship. And I like your definition of friendship, which is friendship is somebody who you can trust to speak for you. Like and then but the and then the part that I'm yeah, and then relationship is just somebody you want to spend time with, like you get energy from, and therefore naturally feel drawn to spending more time with. So the question that I have is from friendship, like somebody who you trust to speak for you, to the dating and marriage part, like what's the gap there? Like practically, do I just make that friendship with everybody now? In this case, let's say with every female friends now, and then just see what happens. Like what? That's one
Okay,
is
great question. No, this is a great question because really the gap is relationship to friendship. So we're back to causality.
right.
The only way somebody can speak for you is they need to know your causes.
Right. Like
So
why?
what's really happening? So when I look at people, a lot of people say, well, they're my friend. And I'm like, no, you're in relationship with them. They're not your friend because you wouldn't trust them to speak for them because they don't know your causes. So for example, I was helping a couple that had been married 35 years. And and I asked the woman, what her favorite color was. She said green. I said, why? And she said, well, my name is Phyllis. And like chlorophyll, Phil means green. So I've liked it because it's with my name. And the husband looked at her and said, I never knew that. 35 years, he never asked her why. Now, the minute I don't care what your favorite movie is. I care why it's your favorite movie.
Yeah.
Because when I understand why it's your favorite movie, I now understand other things that connect to you. So the only people you really trust to speak for you are the ones who sit there and really get to know you deeply and say why. And if you really get to know somebody deeply, one of two things. So the gap takes care of itself, is what I'm trying to say. Is
Huh?
if you become friends with somebody, what's going to happen over time is that person's going to go, I'm now again, if they're low self-esteem, they're going to go, Gwen, I like you, but you just don't do anything for me because I've trained my unconscious brain to be attracted to a really bad boy who's a disaster, who abuses people, because that's where attraction really is in our unconscious.
Right.
So these girls watch these TV shows, they see a character who's a bad boy, good looking guy, and they go, I like him. And their unconscious brain goes, you like everything about him, so you want a bad boy. And so then what happens is they're not, their unconscious brain isn't going to juice them towards you because you're not a bad boy. And
Yeah.
you don't want the low self-esteem woman. But a high self-esteem woman, when you talk to her and she gets to know you, she's either going to have energy getting to know you or she's not. And then she won't really get to know you deeply. And so the thing is, what's really happening is we all have love at first sight
Right.
because we've told our unconscious what we're looking for, and when we see it, our unconscious juices us. However, if you get to know somebody, the
Yeah.
more we get to know you, and the more you get to know her and get to know about them, your unconscious would start going, "Oh, you really like this person," and
Right.
it would start judging you towards that. So I'll tell you this: I used to always ask this question: how would you tell a man to grow in attraction to his wife? He would say, I'm attracted to her. But
I,
how would you tell him to grow in attraction? And what happens is I joke and say, Mark Twain said, tell him to stare at ugly women. Okay. But what a lot of people do is they're going to be conscious brain. They're going to sit there and go, I'm really attracted to her. She's the most beautiful woman in the world. I don't deserve her. That doesn't work.
yeah.
Attraction's in your unconscious. So the way to do it is you go the opposite way. If you tell a woman, and what I tell guys is if you tell a woman something you've never told anybody else,
Yeah.
your unconscious brain wants to know those things. And it says, oh, in order to know those things, I need you to talk to her more. I'm going to juice towards her. So people go, well, how do I do that? Every day something happens that you haven't told anybody. So I tell stuff that happens in my life first to my wife before I tell everybody else. So my unconscious brain goes, wow, I'm going to keep juicing you towards her because
Yeah.
you really like her. So that's the thing is the gap is relationship to friendship. Who's really getting to know your why and asking you questions. And then as they do that, they're either going to grow an attraction to you or they're not if you don't match.
Right.
And that part takes care of itself.
So
And if she's not growing an attraction to you or he's not growing an attraction, it's because they're low self-esteem.
wait. So quick question. So the match take care of itself from friendship onward. Like if somebody still want to keep to getting to know you, that's a good match. Yes, at
Not
this
just hanging around,
yeah,
getting to know you.
and you know you
Yeah,
right, just hanging around because there's a lot of comfort hanging around kind that doesn't
right,
move to the next level, right? So there's that.
right.
So second question though, so getting to know you, there's also like at some point you need so I have this funny thought, like, but you can also train yourself to want to get to know the other person, right? But
But then, over time, you're not going to really have the energy. You could train yourself as a work to want to get to know the person, but that's where a lot of these marriages start failing. It's like I don't really want to get to know this person, and that goes back to this is the last thing I'll say. That goes back to this mesh. Is what we have is we have this process where we find out what your unconscious desires or craves, and what you want to give, and what does this person's unconscious desire or crave, and we flip them. I go into classrooms and I have kids, teenagers, preteens fill out these sheets. And then I'll ask the classroom, tell me who the best two friends in here are.
yeah,
And
yeah.
they'll point to two people. I'll take their two sheets and I'll read them flipped. And everybody's like, I did a magic trick. She says she wants this, this, and this. And she says she likes to do this, this, and this. I'm like, and it's the other way. And it's like, there's a reason why we're best friends with certain people, because the
Huh?
thing that I like to do that gives me energy, the other person wants from me. And the thing they want to give to me that gives them energy, I want from them. So we
Wow.
can't just be all friends with everybody. We just can't.
Wow, that's crazy because really that goes against me. Like I think I can train myself to become certain thing.
And when I was your age, I thought I could marry anybody. And then I realized, no, 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 no. There's a lot of marriages that would just
I
not
had
work.
that. I had that with one of my past relationship where I was with this lady where I really don't want to tell her everything. I kind of like I don't really want. I want to tell somebody else, and I thought I could try, but then it didn't work. Okay, so very important. Quick last question for you. So the role of touch in this progression of friendship, naturally wanting to get to know each other deeper. Why is the role of touch in that? Because touch is like you said, like, but there's role in creating the physical tension, though. There's like we agree that the growing mutual physical attraction, that's a result of getting to know the effect of getting to know someone. At the same time, there's also some very physical thing about creating tension, and this is all the pickup artist thing they say, right? Creating sexual tension, that kind, like creating the right distance. What would you say on that? Uh,
Okay. So I'll give you a quick answer, then maybe we could do this another time. So
okay.
here's the thing is that you really shouldn't be intimately touching until you're convinced you can reach this person in any situation. Because
Well,
once the touching starts, it's really hard to learn that skill. Okay. Now, the other thing is this any touching you would do before that, intimate touching, ought to be relaxing. So, females, there's all this data that females physiologically need a hug.
yeah,
It physically is a benefit to them and it makes them physically healthy to hug them. So hugging them, not hugging them for 10 minutes, but hugging them, is a thing that's good. Okay. The thing is that if you decide you're going to start to touch, the thing you'd want to do is you'd want to touch and make sure that you're relaxing and she's relaxing. I have a friend going through this right now, and he's like, "Yep, we started touching and we both started ramping up and we don't know each other well enough to reach each other." And we realized, okay, so
yeah,
that's the thing, because it's really healthy. Like to be able, I say this, the number one benefit my wife gets from me
yeah,
is I can put her to sleep.
yeah,
I
yeah,
can touch her. I have learned how to touch her in a way that relaxes her to the point she sleeps. And women have a hard time falling asleep because they can have so many thoughts. Men don't. And I always said, the number one reason why my wife loves me is because if she wakes up in the middle of the night, she'll say, John, put me back to sleep. I can put her back to sleep. She gets her sleep because of me. And I'll tell you what, there are a lot of women out there going, man, if I could find a guy who can help me sleep,